We are a couple of days away from celebrating the IDSA People Power, the bloodless revolution that ousted the dictator from our country. And this brings back memories. Vivid images of heightened militarization, massive human rights violations, extreme poverty among sugar workers, suppression of freedom. I was a seminarian then in Sacred Heart Seminary in Bacolod City. The tension was very, very high. The Filipino people are losing hope, trapped in fear. To the words of then Negros Bishop Antonio Y. Fortich, it was a social volcano that is ready to erupt.
I'm Rudy Riviche from Bacolod City. I was in 4th year high school nang idineklara yung martial law. And I vividly remember there were so many restrictions. There was curfew, and then maraming hindi natuloy. Like, wala na kaming JS prom, wala na kaming yearbook, and so on because dominated na ng state ang media. I remember ang pinakamalaki at pinakahabang lakbayan happened in Negros Occidental. Nag-build up yung protest movement. Grabe yung lahat ng halos sectors was aware.
My name is Zenia Tupas, and I used to be a journalist covering Negros Occidental, and I was covering mainly political and human rights stuff for Veritas News magazine. I was a journalist in the first place, and then I did it on the side because I worked full-time for a human rights organization in Negros Occidental.
I am Father Baby Gordoncillo. I was the Social Action Director of the Diocese of Bacolod from 1981, I think, to 2002 or 2003.
I'm Errol Gatumbato from Negros, and basically I was a martial law kid. I was in grade 2 when martial law was declared, and throughout the rest of my student life was under the Marcos environment. So basically, from my childhood to the prime days of my youth, I was really a witness of what was going on during the time of Marcos.
I'm Clement Del Castillo, 72 years of age. Yeah, the first time I heard about martial law, I was still working in the forest, and I was working up in the Upper Maao area, and I went down to my brother's house in the barrio, and we talked about it because there was an element of fear when you can hear over the radio about, the closure of Congress, the tanks, and the military takeover.
So, syempre, bata ka, you don't feel anything about it, except then when we went back to school, we were introduced to new song, itong may bagong lipunan, and we were asked not to say anything bad about Marcoses, but only the good things about him.
In the first few years ng martial law, that was between 74 to 76 siguro, medyo maayos pa ng konti, but eventually we found out na ang dami palang mga abuses, slowly na-monopolize ang ekonomiya ng mga crony ni Marcos, and I was in college already, and we just have to follow. Wala kaming choice, because there was an element of fear all around, and anybody could be picked up na you talk against the government and the administrators.
When I saw trucks of soldiers coming in the compound of the logging company where my father was working, and again, that was the first time I saw how many trucks of fully armed soldiers. And then I asked my mother, "What are they for?" And my mother said, "They are here to guard the company." And I said, why do you have to guard? As far as I know, I grew up in that place without soldiers at all, even security guards, And she said that, we are already in a different times. There were a lot of persons against Marcos, but he warned me not to say anything about it.
Si tatay ko ang victim ng martial law. Hindi si tatay ko NPA. Mabakalan siya gatas sa Atlas drugstore. Kay wala gatas ang brother ko. Dasun gindakop siya sa pulis. Kag walaan siya kapuli. Bilog nga gabi. So grabing anxiety sa balay kay ang brother ko nagahibi.
What drove me really to protest was when one day when I went out to my house driving the car, to the left I saw a man lying on the ground dead, and I was told that he was salvaged. He's not from there, he was salvaged. And that's the first time I saw death in my life. I mean, salvaging, rather. And that moved me to go to sit-ins and whatever. I joined some of the rallies, all that.
My baptism of fire was really difficult. I thought I would not take that job anymore. I was assigned here in Kabangkalan, that famous Aningal family. The father and 4 sons were taken from their houses by the CHDF with military soldiers. So the following day, the mother and the daughter went to our office and told us what happened. And we went there to the area, and we were talking to the family when suddenly somebody approached us and told us, we saw dead bodies floating in the rivers. And we went down to the river and we saw first one brother. His hands were tied at his back. He bore some stab wounds and some torture marks and gunshot wounds. And then going downstream, we fished another dead body, the same happening, and 3 others until we recovered the 5 other bodies. I think there were still photographs there in the newspaper. My eyes witnessed 5 dead bodies, father and 4 boys. Were killed simply because they were suspected as New People's Army. And I said, where is justice? I could hardly sleep, I could hardly eat because amoy mo na yung baho. And yung picture hanggang ngayon na sa akin, yung mother and the girls who were crying.
I was really torn. I don't know how to function, whether to function as a journalist or a human rights worker. At that point, I forgot being a journalist. What I did, we went around the sugarcane fields to rescue some of the rallyists who were hiding. Because, right after the firing of the soldiers, they were in the Escalante Plaza holding a rally. And when the soldiers opened fire, some of them fled to as far as Sagay, which is the next city after Escalante on the way to Bacolod. So, you can just imagine how people scrambled for safety. So we had to go around the sugarcane fields to look for them, just in case there are still victims who have been injured.
Makita mo yung kalat-kalat pa yung mga dugo, yung mga gruesome na parang sa movie mo lang makikita. I think that was the most cruel incident of human rights violations I encountered.
That was the time when we had made so many meetings with the Church Military Liaison Committee a committee created then by Ferdinand Marcos, which was composed of military heads in the province together with the church. We presented to them so many victims of human rights, and even the people spoke their experience with militarization in Negros. From 1982, most of our programs, we consider them justice and peace, working for the liberation of the people through education and works of pursuing justice. We were able to organize a lot of people. NFSW then was beginning their organizations. With the help of the Social Action Center, we were able to help people organize themselves.
I documented cases of union workers, members of National Federation of Sugar Workers. Dead bodies were dumped in the sugarcane fields. I could hardly count in my hands how many of them. That was the time that Negros was heavily militarized. Halos bawat municipality may mga troopers.
Intensified by the year 1980s to include priests who will frame up for the murder of then Mayor Sola of Kamangkalan. And they were stayed in jail for, I don't know, maybe 7 months in the provincial jail until they were absolved by the court.
The worst part is the rumor mongerings, because there was no free press. So whatever the government wants to say is what you hear over the radio. So rumors and rumors and rumors.
During my high school days, may mga may mga kumikilos na, hindi pa naman yung tawag doon pagbagsak kay Marcos, Ang tawag pa doon social transformation. It was only in the 80s when the term ibagsak si Marcos yung nagiging popular na.
Napasok ako sa protest movement when I attended theater workshop. Nagamit ko yung teatro sa aming bayan, sa Murcia, to conscientize the people, and we formed the Christian Community Theater and spread sa diocese, and there were so many theater groups na rin, during that time.
Here in Negros, the church bravely carried on with its mission to be the voice of the voiceless, the conscience of the society, inspiring the people to stand for their rights. It was a beacon of hope. It reminded the people that liberation is forthcoming, that freedom can be achieved if we hold on to each other.
So this went on for so many years, and I think we had changed the mind of the people during the martial law days, and I think that was the beginning of their conversion, which led to its final manifestations during the EDSA Revolution.
Because of the pressure, President Marcos has to come up with a snap election noong 1986. And after the election, siyempre siya pa rin ang nanalo.
That snap election turned out to be another venue for the dictator to rob the people of their rights. Images of confusion, fear, frustration. They were all there after that snap election.
Ang nag-trigger noon, nang nag-walk out yung mga COMELEC personnel sa PICC telling them that there was a scam.
It was the spark needed for the people to come out and flood the streets. And I saw the marginalized sectors, the fishermen, urban poor, sugar workers. They were all there seeking refuge in seminary, sleeping on our seminary lobbies and grounds with their tired bodies and empty stomachs from a week-long Welga ng Bayan and hunger strikes.
In Bacolod, during the last few days of the Marcos dictatorship, we had a series of rallies at the Bacolod Public Plaza. Actually, the rallies were held without permit because the chief of police did not allow the rallies to be held. So, but nevertheless, people gathered at the plaza, for these rallies. And I remember in the afternoon of before Marcos fled in the evening, so we had a rally and then we all went home.
I was at the home together with my mother listening to the radio broadcast na nangyayari. And it was announced na umalis na sila. Tabi ni Mami nag-iyakan, nagyakap, and parang relief.
Until finally, on the last day, when you hear Marcos was already going to Hawaii, everybody was cheering in the public plaza. I was still there in the public plaza when that happens. And then afterwards, after cheering in public plaza, we took to our cars and we drove honking our horns.
I was already home listening to the radio of what's happening in Manila. Like people were on the streets. And so I got out. I saw the car of Bishop Fortich. Since they knew me, I waved at them. And then I rode on the car, and then we went around the city and went to the plaza to celebrate the downfall of the dictatorship. That's really clear on my mind. I was with Bishop Fortich at that time. Oh, he was like like the rest of us. There was like a sigh of relief, and everybody was so ecstatic. Nobody told us to gather, just to be with each other, to feel the excitement after several years of struggling against the dictatorship.
Ang saya-saya doon sa Bacolod daw sa fiesta, parang everybody was hugging each other kahit hindi kilala, because parang finally we're free from the tyrant, we were free from the dictator.
We are a couple of days away from the anniversary of EDSA, People Power. Throughout the years, the message of hope and love of country may have receded. We, the generation who saw it all, suffered through it, and won our freedom and democracy back, will never forget.
Fight for your country!